There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello. Hello, Wanderers. Welcome. Happy Heart Day.
Right.
If you're into that sort of thing, it is Valentine's. I'm not really into that. I shouldn't say not really, not at all. Not even a little bit into that. But I wore the color and not on purpose. Just happened to work out that way.
I think it's funny you're in pink and I'm in black.
I know. And listener Charles, it will be so proud every time I wear color. Every
He's like,
time.
what?
Yeah, he's like, she's not wearing black. So, hello, I'm AJ,
I'm Natalie.
and we're your hosts of Soul Wanderings. We're heard live on kgradb.com every Wednesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. It's kind of a party.
It is kind of a party.
Sometimes it's a heavier party.
It's true.
But it's all good. We grow, we learn, we get inspired, motivated. We have all kinds of good stuff going on Wednesday nights. So thank you for being here with us.
And having these lovely conversations about soul and humanness and who knows what else is going to come up
Yeah.
tonight. So organic. That's what I love about the show is that we
Mhm.
wander. It's a big thing to wander and just
Yeah.
not know for sure where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Have
You
a
never know. It's a very
No.
authentic hangout around here. We don't know. We just know we have amazing guests who decide to show up for everyone to share their story, to share their message, and we get to hold space for that. It's kind of a cool gig. I'm not sad about it.
It keeps going and going.
It's the show that never ends. We're going into our 7th year here. Oh, yeah, the end of the 7th year.
That
We're
means going
mid
towards
7
8,
year. We're
7 and a
going
half
into the
years.
8th, yes.
That's a
Not
long
till
time.
October would it be 8, but I mean, we're time goes like this.
It
We're almost
does.
there.
Oh,
Close enough. It's been a long time. Okay, it's been a long time. New guests quite often. I'm so grateful. We have so many people reach out and want to be on Soul Wanderings. Thank you. If you're one of those, if you're someone who's interested, had to blow the incense out. Forgot it was burning. If you are someone who's interested in sharing your journey story with us, do not hesitate. Let's hear about it. If you can hang out with us for an hour and a half and tell us about your human experience and your spiritual journey and all of that good stuff in any realms, any anomalous realms, we want to hear about it. We love meeting with humans from all walks of life, all different paths and purposes. Connect at soulwanderings.com is the email that you'll want to reach out to us on, or you can even visit soulwanderings.com and go to the contact section at the very bottom of the page. I just love new guests. I like returning guests too, and we're going to have some of those this year that have not wandered with us in a while and have either produced new work or have had new experiences. I have a few of them booked. They'll be joining us. So I love that. I love catch ups, part twos.
heck yeah. Then you get to go deeper
Yes.
into the conversation.
So
Revisit
good.
that territory. You can't, it's an hour and a half. That only lets us delve so far into it. And there's a lot in each stories.
There is, and sometimes it's a really long time.
Or sometimes
Some shows are really long shows, and so, you just never know. When I say long, just like we don't always interview professionals, we interview, like, people who are just barely getting out into the world. So,
that public speaking is up in the top 5 fears, most stressful things that people ever do.
I can understand that. I would not wanna be a public speaker. I
And
feel very safe here in this little corner of the world, this padded room that's black. I really am happy about this space.
but it is very public speaking. It is even though you can't see, it's not like this audience in front of you, but there is this, like, oh, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal, but that's what connects us to each other is having the opportunity to share. And so, I mean, listen to our intro.
That's right. That's
Connects
what it
us
is
to each
about.
other. And ourselves and to each other. So it says. What big things have you learned this past week?
Oh my. So I have had delving into experience of different personality types and different ways people communicate. I'm having a really big life lesson on communication. And
Mm.
so e- um, there is in communication, there's the sending, the sender, and the receiver. And it's an interactive process. Someone's transmitting, we'll put it better, transmitter and a receiver.
Mm.
And sometimes they're not on the same channel.
Yeah.
So what's being transmitted isn't being received, and there's not a real clarity about that. So it's like, do you always get what, are you getting what I'm putting down? And sometimes you think someone understood. So there's those types of things I'm learning about communication. There's sometimes where you're just not communicating at all. And this is in a family dynamic. So I'm also seeing myself and my nature of communicating.
Mm.
Well, I want to touch on interpretation, how things are interpreted, because that
That
came up.
it's all in the delivery and interpretation where all of the interesting things happen, right?
Yes. However, you can like have um, things put together and you can be well-meaning and you can be mindful and deliver something, and you're ultimately not responsible for the interpretation the other person
Mhm.
has.
True.
Because the interpretation the other person has is based on what they lived out in their life and their personal belief structure and what's inside them. And there's no
Mhm.
control. Like you don't have any control over another person's interpretation.
Right.
Now, that can be difficult. We live in a society that's like, "You hurt my feelings, so you need to change
Especially
your."
these days.
Yes,
I
the
had this conversation today.
the power in being offended. There is a lot of power in someone being offended
Mhm.
over something that someone else says.
Right.
And so there was some interaction with family members and things that's like my sis one of my family members says, "I was introduced to the word interpretation." And it is it's very dynamic. So communication, generally speaking, is very, very unscripted.
Mhm.
We watch what we watch on television and Hulu and Netflix and all that. Now, all of that stuff is very scripted. They've worked out a script, they've done like 50 runs at it, and then they chop it together, and it all seems to have this flow. And we get programmed through that because we watch a lot of that. And life is not like that.
No. It does not move that easily and
No.
gracefully, for sure.
So sometimes you just go along, you just say something. I also had a lesson in that last week in one of my private sessions where I was being, I'm just quirky and funny, and I like to. Some of the stuff that I talk about with my sessions is kind of dense and heavy, and I
Mhm.
like to bust through it with some humor. Well, It was a family session, and one member of the family was not liking my little, like, poking at, "Hey, so this was this thing that you and then you had this huge overreaction, and I'm a little dramatic with that." And, she was ooh, she had a sort of meltdown and shut down and like, "Oh my goodness," that doesn't happen to me very often in sessions, and I'm like, "Oh, that was not free flow." So I don't necessarily like being constrained by people that I can't be free and just free flowing with, but there are some
Right.
people that don't they're sensitive.
Mhm.
And if I'm just to say, if your you are responsible for your interpretation. So just
Absolutely.
one of my nuggets is going to say, if your interpretation has some you have an internal response, so you're upset with what someone else says, that is a signal for your work.
Mm.
Where
That's where
it's
you work.
your button, your trigger.
Except for you have to acknowledge that, right?
Yes. So
The
if
first step is
not
admitting
willing
you have a button.
so sometimes things just blow up and then it's just sometimes good not to have conversations with certain people.
Yeah.
So I was learning sometimes there are times and I'm actually quite diplomatic, so I can use my nature of diplomacy to interact, but it's also can be restrictive when you can't
Mhm.
be just free flowing with people. So that was my big thing, I guess, was like interpretation.
Yeah.
All things are open to interpretation.
It's a lovely lesson that you learned this week.
It's one of them.
One of the many.
Along with understanding that decision making is actually quite profound. Our decisions move us through life,
Yes.
and especially the big ones. And some and we can get hung up as a human, as an individual, we can get hung up if we have trouble with decision making or the decisions we've made, how they've not panned out, and it really can we can become mired and decision making can be troublesome because we don't know how a decision is going to ultimately work itself out until you're in it. And sometimes you just have to decide and then see how it works out, and then be willing to decide again.
Yeah.
You gotta just keep deciding and deciding. So, that was another one of my observations. It's like, it really is true that our decisions navigate us through this life, space, and this spaceship body that we're in,
May
and
I don't get it. I'm not one to make quick decisions. We know this.
No, but
My
that's
decision making is a process, and I have to go in order.
which is vital to know because then you can acknowledge your personal decision making
Yes.
process and know that that's the way that's best for you. And if someone doesn't like it, that's just their interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things I could say.
It's
Screw
true.
them. But, you can't please everybody.
No. So how about you? What
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 did I learn this
yeah,
week?
what did you learn this week?
Oh, wow. I'm just trying to decide how much I wanna share.
Ah,
And not because I don't wanna be authentic and organic in our conversation,
right.
but, there are just so many opinions and thoughts out in the world about certain things that that I learned this week. Let me generalize it though, because then it can fit for anybody.
Yeah.
When you, commit to doing the work, and when I say the work, you say the work, like cleaning ourselves up, like really healing anything that shows up for us. Like everyone knows, I've made it clear, I'm not opening up a closet and like taking a box, like, let's work on this today. But as things come up, and when you're committed to being a better version of yourself regularly, um, you're like in hyper awareness, I would say. So every time you talk, not that you go back and analyze everything, but you are aware of, like, more so of the words you're using, the energy
Mhm.
you're using, the people you're around, the things you're consuming, food, um, um, media or otherwise. Like, you're just super aware. And I've noticed, like, I made a commitment to myself, to be this way, this certain sort of way for a while, but even more so in the last year because, I realized I have some patterns and behaviors that are conditioning and they don't work for me and they aren't for my highest good. I'm only getting in my own way. And so just recognizing that and acknowledging that, but also being a human and doing the fun things, right? So there's got to be some balance in there or I'd be really serious all the time and there's no fun in that.
No.
So, yeah, I definitely think that finding the balance, but going back to like being aware of all of those things that I just shared, you put yourself in situations where you're just more open to whatever energy presents itself.
Yes.
And so, like being around certain people, and some people can be messy, and it's not a judgment, it's just an observation of what works for me and my energy now and what doesn't. And I have friends and family in all different places. Like literally there's no judgment. And I'm definitely not clean all the way, right?
Right.
We're always working on ourselves throughout our entire lifetime. It's just that where I used to be able to be and sit and be comfortable, I'm no longer comfortable.
Right.
And I think just the more cleanup work you do, I really have enjoyed being a homebody. Like social events and gatherings of were always challenging anyway, but they've just become more and more so. And we have the healing center during the day. And that's one thing, like strangers are coming in all of the time, but we're there helping them. It has nothing really to do with us, right? We're just doing the work. But at the end of it all, just the deep conversations and the deep emotions and all the emotions, even the happy ones, like all over, right? They just wear on you. So going home is just like, oh, I can breathe now. I'm not feeling everyone's everything.
Right.
So like my lessons this week is like a combination of it all. I'm probably rolling all over, like in as far as my thought processes go. But so many of our listeners are on their own spiritual journey too. And that's why they're drawn to us. That's why they listen to our show and are interested in what our guests have to say because they're learning about themselves, about healing, what their purpose is, what their gifts are, all kinds of things. And I just I just think that no matter what, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I just think that no matter what we're going through, what we're experiencing, it's just it's really neat to have an awareness of like where you were and where you are now and like the possibilities of where you're going to go.
Right.
I just think it's so beautiful. And so I had a lot of time with myself in quiet, like just quiet in my mind, just, reminiscing about the experiences I had this week. Because I had a long drive home from a gathering and how grateful, like, oh, wow. Just how grateful I feel to have been given so many opportunities in life to get it right, if that makes sense, right? We
Makes
mess
sense
up
to
all
me.
the time, and we have ample opportunity to change that and just, um, like, shuffle things up and redirect, or we just have, like, all these opportunities to do better and be better. And I just think that's really awesome. But this last week, yeah, lots of learning experience as far as like putting myself in situations that were a lot emotionally, energetically, and then recognizing like how far I've come because before I would have like disassociated or something. Like
Oh,
I'm not
right.
feeling it. I'm gonna be busy so I don't have to deal with it. Where I actually got to like really be in it.
And be in that uncomfortable
Yeah,
space
be
and not run from it.
uncomfortable and also like tears of gratitude, like just overjoyed with gratitude that I get to even have these experiences. It's really neat. Oh, neato. So that was all over the place. I'm trying to like summarize it because so many big things happened last week. Lots of energy shifting and just oh wow, just so much. And grateful. I'm just really grateful.
So with our listeners, I'm sure that when they're on their own journey and they're taking up tidbits from the guests that we have and doing their own letting go,
Mhm.
and as you let go, there does become this sensitivity level, and
Yes.
there's also, like, you let go, there's sometimes people, that fall off, but you also know when someone else is heavier or denser, and you may have an awareness that someone else may need to let go of things as well.
Yeah.
And then there comes that time or wisdom that says we all do it in our own time. And it stretches us to love people where they are
Mm.
because we were there too. And there's part of that remembering that you're like, oh, I remember when I was like that. And often we want to go, S, release it, free yourself from
Mm.
that density. And they're like, no, I like it. This
Yeah.
is my heaviness. And you're like, okay, this is where I have some people. I'm like, okay, I I'm okay.
Yeah.
Knowing when to push, when just not to. It's okay. Love them
Mhm.
where they're at.
Yeah.
Love yourself for where you are too.
Yes, yes, it's all about that. You're really good, like okay, so this is why I interview people and I'm not the interviewee. I've noticed when I've been interviewed, I'm just like, "Well," and then I go on and on and on in all these different directions. Eventually, they'll come together at the end, but sometimes I just leave them open. And and then Natalie comes along and she's like, "This is what she meant to say," and all of that. Let me clean that up for her. And this is how it looks like because she knows my language.
It's one of my gifts, the interpretation, the ability to explain complex topics in
Yeah.
simple terms.
Whoa, I almost lost my oils there.
Whoa.
That would have been bad.
Oh, yeah.
This is ADHD working really good for me right now. I'll tell you, every week to sit here for 2 hours is super challenging, you guys. I'm really grateful I get to practice this with you, though. It's awesome. It's no joke. I'm, like, fidgety under the table every week, just like
It's like, okay, we're staying here. We're focused. We're focused. We're focused.
mhm. Yeah. It's just a good old time.
It's the delight of being able to have this lovely show of ours.
Yeah, so, whew, what are you guys learning this week? What have been some lessons or some aha moments or some beautiful experiences that you had this week? I'd love to hear about them in the chat. We're hanging out on Facebook, Rumble, under KGRA Digital Broadcasting. We're also on live.kgradb.com. You can hang out in any of those chat. I started reading someone's comment right. Thanks, Maria. You can hang out on any of those platforms with us and hang out in the chat room, and other wanderers are there too. We love the other wanderers. Wouldn't be here without you.
That's right. That's what we do this
Yeah,
for.
tell us. And do you guys celebrate Valentine's Day? Because there's quite a few of you here, so I'm surprised and grateful. Thank you.
Will they all be our Valentine?
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
There's so many interpretations of what Valentine's Day means, but you all know me by now after all these years of hosting Soul Wanderings that I'm all about the love.
Yeah.
Like every day is heart day, love day because love is everything.
I got several text and messages, and from one lady that sent me, she sent it first thing this morning. She said, "Happy Valentine's Day to you. I genuinely love you,
Aww.
and you're a special soul." And it wasn't someone I would have thought. I don't interact with her very often, but my heart just was like touched knowing that I had affected, or there was this, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Oh, girl, you
thank
affect a
you.
lot of people that way. The things that I hear when you're not around, it's just if we could all talk to each other as nice as everyone talks about you,
Mm.
the world would be a better place.
Well, I love everybody.
We feel it. We
I'm
feel it.
just like this shining light. I'm like, I don't know.
Natalie's a love bug.
I'm gonna show up and I'm just gonna love people. That's what I can do. Sometimes I've said, I don't know, I can't do much, but I could give you a hug.
Yeah. Speaking of love, we're going to love our guest tonight. Her energy is so good. I saw her little intro to her new podcast, and she just feels like someone I'd want to hang out with.
Ooh,
So I'm really
yay.
excited we get to do that the next hour and a half. Everyone stay close. When we get back, we'll bring her on to join us. Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back. I'm AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we are your hosts of Soul Wanderings, heard live here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. We hope you're joining us on one of the platforms, Facebook, Rumble, on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, or live.kgradb.com. Those are where we're all
All
hanging
the
out.
places.
Hang out with us. Share with your friends. Sharing is caring. Speaking of sharing, we're committed to amping up our social media. I guess that's a thing, we have fought it for so long
You're
because
doing
I'm
so
like,
great.
technology. And yeah, so if you will follow us at Soul Wanderings on Instagram, X, Facebook, all the places,
Up our
that's
numbers.
that's where you're going to also find all of our show announcements, where you can see who's going to be on the show this week before we introduce them to you, like we're going to do now. Yay! Are you excited?
I am excited.
Our guest tonight is Alethea Jacob. She's a seasoned intuitive spiritual life coach, teacher, speaker, and brand new podcast host. She works with humans all over the world, guiding them through their life and assisting them in rediscovering their purpose, passion, and joy for living. Let's welcome Alethea to the show.
Hi.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
Alethea.
Hi.
Thank you
How are
for
you tonight?
joining us.
Oh, very happy to be here. Happy Valentine's Day, ladies.
Thanks. I like the color. How
Oh,
fun.
red, of course, for Valentine's Day. Gotta wear the red, right?
Yeah, you look gorgeous. And look at all your spiritual tools. So
Oh,
much
sure.
fun.
Oh, yeah. I've been in the field for so many years, and I've been blessed to have traveled to about 30 countries around the world doing what I do. So wherever I go, I always bring back a little souvenir of something. And yeah, my house is just filled with all kinds of tools and toys for sure.
Like a spiritual museum.
Yeah, that it's dusting is not my thing at all because there's too many things all around. I
That's
vacuum
how I
all right.
feel about my house. I'm like,
Yeah,
can someone come
yeah,
dust for me? There's just too much.
Right, me
yeah.
too.
I do give my crystals a bath twice a year. It's bath day, and they get all excited because they all get their get their dust off of them, and they get held and washed and put back in the sunshine, and then the whole room is like glowing afterwards just because they're so happy. But I do that at least twice a year, and obviously bigger things I do more often. But,
They're like, yay, thank you for the love.
exactly. So tell
I,
tell me a little bit about your audience, right? Because obviously I'm really new to podcasting, and I tuned in a little early just to listen a tiny bit, and I'm like, oh, I like these ladies, and I agree with you, AJ. We probably would be friends. Where do y'all live, and where are you beaming from? I'm in Wisconsin at the moment, but I'm originally from New York. Where y'all located?
we're beaming from Utah.
Utah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we're
Nice.
not super close to each other, but yeah, what's a few hours
That's the
of
beauty
travel?
of technology, though, right? We can do this. That's pretty fun.
Absolutely. Yes, so grateful. We love meeting humans from all over the world doing this, and now
Cool.
you'll get to experience the same thing when you get your
Yeah.
podcast going. That's exciting. I already subscribed. I'm looking forward to
Oh,
hearing
thank
what
you.
you're going to share with everyone. That's so good.
Yeah, we've recorded the first 2 episodes, but my website isn't as complete as I want it to be. And I thought, it doesn't make sense to launch it until people have a place to actually go and read more and find out and know how to contact me. So we're just holding off. Hopefully within the next week or so, that'll be done, and we'll be launching and rocking and rolling. And I'm like you, I'm trying to learn all this social media stuff. One of the producers was like, you have to make me some TikTokable moments. I'm like, a TikTokable moment? Oh my God, what is this? She's like, oh yeah, just film yourself doing something. So there's a couple I'm talking about crystals and talking about my dog. And so that kind of stuff is starting to get out into the universe. But I'll learn, but I'm very willing to share what I know. And I'm also loving to learn what you ladies know. Because I think at this point in my life, and I think it's needed out in the world, I think it's incumbent upon those of us who have gone a little further along our journey and maybe figured a few things out, that we really need to share that information with other people and output and download and give them the tools. I remember hearing years ago that everything old is new again. And sure enough, the things that when I was a baby new ager in the 80s is now all of a sudden like, oh, everybody's dying to learn about it all over again. I'm like, really? Okay, sure. I know about that stuff. Let's share,
It makes you an expert.
Well, yeah, I think if you do anything for 40 years, unless you're not very good at it, I guess you could be bad and do it for a long time. But I've been pretty good at it and been pretty blessed and lucky to have studied and trained with some amazing people over the years. And so I think that's also part of paying it forward and that's why I love the whole reason I wanted to do a podcast was to be able to output and share and just kind of inspire people to be curious. I have a science background as well as the metaphysical background, and I've worked in a corporate environment for 18 years, as well as nonprofits and my own businesses. And so I have this different approach, and I like to just call it straight talk, because too many people try to make the metaphysical stuff seem very woo-woo and scary or complex. And it's like, well, some of it can be, but it doesn't have to be. There's really simple things you can do to dive in and enjoy it. And if you're curious, why not give it a try and just see what works for you? Because we all have spiritual gifts, every one of us. It's a human potential, right? So it's like, well, what are your specific human potential gifts? Where do you shine? What resonates with you the best? And I think a lot of the trouble in the world today is because people have lost sight of not just the love of brother and sister and understanding, hey, we're all going through this together. But I think they don't have sight of what their own purpose is. What is your soul's purpose? Why are you here now? And the place that you're at, what's going on? There was free will and free choice for us to kind of be born in this time and place and to do some of the big picture things. We didn't know all the little fine details of this is what's going to happen in my life, but we knew some of the bigger building blocks, and we still volunteered and said, okay, yeah, sure, let's go down. Let's do that. Right. So I think it's important to help give people the tools where they can start to explore or even just start thinking about it. How many people just go through their day where they get up, they do their morning routine, they go to work, they come back home, maybe they hit a few errands on the way home, they come do their chores, maybe they chill out with their friends and family, and then they repeat that day after day. Maybe the weekend's a slightly different variety of those kind of activities. Maybe once or twice a year they get to go on vacation. But the weeks and the months and the years just fly by, and they really haven't stopped to think like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I enjoying this? Is this fulfilling my soul? Is this utilizing my gifts and the things that I love to do naturally? Is it bringing joy? Is it contributing to society, or to my family, or to my friends, or my community? People just don't ask questions anymore. They just kind of go through their days, right? So I want people to ask questions. I want people to be curious. I want them to explore and experiment and see where their gifts might be and what experiences they can have. Because, when you open up to spirit and you say, hey, I'm paying attention, you're going to hear something. You're going to see something. You're going to notice. And however you notice, and just teaching people, how do you notice? Right? How do you notice what you notice? People they're not even that self-aware most of the time, right? Until they step back and they're like, yeah, wait a minute. How do I, when I'm imagining something, am I hearing that song in my head? Am I seeing pictures? Am I feeling it in my body somewhere? They don't really know to notice until people like us say, hey, by the way, it might be kind of useful if you would try this exercise, or notice what you notice, or be playful with it. take the pressure off, the tools, if the very first person who picked up a hammer was told, you have to build a house, and they're like, really? With this hammer? I don't know, but, if you had given them a full toolkit and knowledge and let them apprentice with somebody for a while, okay, maybe, over time they'll be able to build that house, right? But they're going to start maybe the bird house first, not a big house, right?
I think that's a really good analogy for like stepping into the metaphysical, because you're just like, okay, go get a crystal
Right.
and then, clean yourself up with the crystal. And people are like, what do I do? It's like, well, how do you build a house with a hammer? And
Right.
you need a whole toolbox for
Right.
the metaphysical as well.
Exactly. And the knowledge too, right?
Yes.
The knowledge.
And
Yeah. So, but
it's not a race. It's like over time, you're gathering
oh
knowledge,
yeah,
a lot of knowledge over
Right.
time.
The
oh
knowledge
for
comes
sure.
with the experience.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
You're like, it's an on-the-job training
Yes.
sort of
No,
thing.
you cannot go
Oh,
into
yeah.
autopilot like you were saying. That just doesn't work for expansion whatsoever.
No. And I think a lot of the times we invite, without realizing it, the crises into our lives to force us to stop, slow down, ask for help,
Mhm.
ask even the question of what's going on here. When you have a major life change, it's like, okay, I didn't see that one coming. Why didn't I see that one coming? We're kind of curious about it. And then we have the choice. How are we going to deal with whatever that situation is? And asking questions of, well, how does this serve me? How could this be a blessing in disguise? How could this lead me to become more of the true self, my fuller self, that person that I know I was always meant to be, but I haven't quite achieved that level yet? What does that mean? What's the full measure of my creation? If everybody has something that in their heart is special to them, how do I express that and find an outlet for it, or time to do it, or time to even figure out what is it? So many people, I was a life coach. I still am a life coach for about 40 years. And one of the biggest questions that people have and they don't know how to answer is, what do I want? Well, if you don't know what you want, what's the old, the saying from the Alice in Wonderland, when she meets the Cheshire Cat up in the tree and she asks which way, right? If you don't know where you're going, any path will do, right? So if you don't have some sense of the person you're trying to become, or the life you're trying to create for you or your family, or the purpose you're trying to actualize, life is just going to wind up feeling like a washing machine, just, throwing you around and sloshing you around. And you're like, okay, wait, come up prayer every now and again, and pray for the rinse cycle to be merciful. Right? I'm telling you, sometimes, and things always seem to come in patterns. And one of the things I learned a long time ago from one of my teachers, and they said, look, it behooves you to pay attention to the whispers of spirit, because if you don't listen, and it's really important, your soul has basically agreed to whatever is coming, right? And what it wants you to do and what it wants you to become. Planet Earth, this body of ours, is a way for us to express, to learn, to love, to become even more, right? So there's certain background assignments, so to speak, or things that we're hoping, pieces of the puzzle we're looking to find, or threads of our tapestry that we're trying to weave together. And we have to find those threads and figure out, how do they go together here? What pattern do I want to make? Right? Well, if we're not paying attention to the whispers, well, then spirit might have to talk in a firmer voice or a sterner voice. And if you don't pay attention to that, spirit has to yell. And if you don't listen to that, the 2x4 comes out. And if some girls still miss that after the 2x4, a Mack truck will hit you. And it's like, okay, wait. I've had enough of those more violent wake-up calls in my life. And so I am now an expert at listening, for the most part, to those little whispers. But I'll share a funny story, if you don't mind, where even after all these years and knowing what I know, sometimes I get that prompting and I don't quite listen. So the other day, I have a dog, Flash. He's a Belgian Malinois, and he's brilliant. He was a working dog for years. And now he's my buddy and my companion. And he's so smart. He knows how to open up doors to the house, including sliding glass doors. Right.
Wow.
So the other day I'm doing dishes and I see he had let himself out into the side yard, which is totally fine. It's fenced in. And I had this little prompting, I should probably go close that door. I'm like, it's winter here still in Wisconsin. We're having a bit of a heat wave compared to the normal winter, but I'm like, what's the big deal? So he comes trotting in a few minutes later and I'm like, okay, I finished the dishes, but I didn't close the door. So I go walk to the hallway and all of a sudden I see a squirrel in my living room.
Oh.
A squirrel had found its way into the house and I'm like, oh gosh, right? So it goes running by me. It runs into the dining room, runs into my piano room, and it starts jumping up at the window trying to get out. And I'm like, oh, good Lord. I'm like, all right, maybe I can get the window open. I left the door open so it could go out. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe. So it dashes by me. I run and put the dog away because I don't want him like going after the squirrel because, he might get hurt or the squirrel might get hurt. So I come back and I can't see the thing anywhere. I don't know where the heck it went. Like, where is this damn squirrel? And it's a little one. It's like a baby. It's like a reddish brown. I guess it's a ground squirrel versus, and I have lived here in Wisconsin for 7 years. I have never once even seen a squirrel on my property. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's in my house. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe it just ran outside. So I'm like, all right, I don't hear it. I don't see it. I let the dog back loose. He doesn't go look anywhere. We're crazy. That night, I'm like, I don't hear anything. That's good. I come down in the morning. I had been drying. I have an orchard and I have a big community garden. And so we do a lot of planting here on the farm where I live. So I was saving spaghetti squash seeds. I was drying them out on the counter. So I came down in the morning. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm coming with this, Natalie. I come down in the morning and the paper towel that they were on was on the ground and half of the seeds were missing. I'm like, oh, so the squirrel is still in the house. I'm like, oh no, what happened here? So I'm like, all right. So now I take the remaining seeds and I make like something out of Hansel and Gretel, this little trail of seeds going to the back door, which is now open. And I leave for like a couple hours and I'm hoping and praying that the thing gets hungry and it goes out. So I come back, seeds are still there. So now I'm like, now I have to go get a humane trap and put peanut butter and nuts and stuff in there. Well, that trap's been sitting in my house for the last 3 days and not a sign of the little critter. So I'm like, okay, did he get enough of those seeds that he didn't have to come out of the new nest he's made for himself because he has like a week's supply in his cheeks. So to be continued, so I'll have to let you know. But all I know is if I had only listened to that little teeny prompting of intuition of, you might want to close that door, right?
You wouldn't have gotten the 2x4.
Right? I always listen when it's a big thing, but a little thing like that, I'm like, why didn't I listen? I know better.
Did you look up squirrel and what it meant for spirit animal?
Oh, I didn't think to do that. I would imagine it's
you're like, I've never seen a squirrel, so if it's out of the blue, like this is another little subtle thing.
It's probably about industriousness and about, getting stuff done and probably something like that if I was to guess. But no, I had
to Google.
Oh, see, AJ looked it up for you.
I'm a Google girl. Let's Google it. Balance, harmony, good luck, and fortune. The squirrel spirit animal is a symbol of balance, harmony, good luck, and fortune. It teaches you to surrender and let things happen and to communicate and show respect to others.
Okay. Cool.
The squirrel meaning is influenced by the indigenous peoples of North America who considers these creatures to be positive spirits that bring prosperity and happiness.
Cool. Well, when I was in New York, I always looked at the squirrels. New York, sorry, them a New York accent, right? Yeah, there it is.
New York.
when I was in New York, right? I lost a lot of that coming here to Wisconsin, fortunately. And a lot of the more colorful words that were in my vocabulary in New York are not appropriate here in Wisconsin. So those have left me for the most part and have been replaced by a lot of oh goshes more than anything else. But back in New York, we had squirrels that would tell us how rough the winter was going to be based on how many nuts they would collect. And so you would, if they were like frantically going, we had an oak tree, so lots of acorns were down all the time. So if they went and, were gathering like crazy, and if they were really bushy tailed and saving all those nuts, it was always a rough winter. So somehow nature knows and provides for itself. It's really cool.
It is
So
really
I'm sorry, I totally derailed whatever questions you're going to ask with my squirrel story. So
no, that's a good, it's good though, because right, there's so many times that I have received promptings and I just disregard them, and then I have an experience. And really it is about tuning in and listening. And so many of us are just like, nah, it's not a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal. And then they have an experience and they're like, okay, what? You can't mark it off as a coincidence.
It was a good reminder to listen, and it was also very funny because my husband had ADHD, and he would always kind of tease about, I went to do this and then this and this and then squirrel, like to use that as a distraction, And I said to him, well, look at this. I have all these things I'm trying to get done, and I don't have the metaphorical squirrel. I have the literal squirrel showing up in my house. So. But it was a good reminder to listen, even for the little things. Spirit cares about us, and that whether they're guides or angels or our loved ones in spirit or the Holy Spirit or however you want to consider it based on your belief systems and what your faith is. Those benevolent forces are there for us to help us be the best we can and to navigate through life as safely as possible and as joyfully as possible. So it really, it pays to listen and to learn how to tune in to those subtle vibrations, or, so they don't have to become the Mack trucks that run us over and say, okay, yeah, I got it now. I got the lesson. Thank you very much.
If someone was new, like into all of this and realizing that they're receiving messages, what's something that they could do to strengthen that connection that you would recommend?
Sure. One of the biggest questions that come from people that are starting is, how do I know if it's me, my own inner voice, or truly an external benevolent source? And even if it's an aspect of myself, but it's a differentiated aspect of self, how do I figure out the difference? So an exercise I usually would suggest they try is, I'll say to them, okay, think of whatever song you want and sing that inside your head. Just do a lyric of it. So whatever song, favorite song, just take 10 seconds and sing a little bit in it, and notice, where are you hearing that? How are you perceiving it? Do you hear it outside of your ear? Do you hear it inside your head? Do you hear it in the front? Do you hear it in the back? Where are you perceiving it when you're singing it? Now, that was your own choice of your own words. So that's your voice that you're hearing inside your head. That's where you hear that voice, right? Now, I'm going to actually suggest to you, sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Okay, just or whatever song I'm going to tell you that song. So if you don't know Mary Had a Little Lamb, most people know Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? So sing that in your head. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, Mary had a little lamb, right? Okay, so where did you hear that? I guarantee you it's not the same place as where your own voice was heard, right? So Spirit will prompt us sometimes, think this thought, but it's the placement of where the thought is that differentiates, was it my own self coming up with it, or was it Spirit prompting me with it? So learning the location, that's one of the first things. The second thing I love and encourage people to do is to get a notebook or a journal. And I really believe in the handwriting, because there's a certain connection that comes out much more than like using your thumbs on a device. Personally, I really like the brain to hand to paper connection that comes through, because it also gives me an opportunity to get out of the way a little bit. And if I'm using a device, I'm too focused and present on that, not versus what's coming through. Anyway, so you want to have a journal or a notebook, and for about a month, it's going to be your intuition log. And whenever you get a prompting or a message, or you get something that you believe is an intuitive knowing from spirit or a message from spirit, you're going to write it in the first column, what it is. And then you go into the next column, you're going to write, what did you do about it? You know, what action did you take, if any? And then in the third column, it's the outcome. What was the result, right? So a typical example would have been when I was living back in New York, I would get a prompting that says, take I-95 versus the Merritt Parkway. Well, I don't like driving with the trucks on I-95, but I was like, okay, it was a strong prompting. I'm going to put that down. And then later on, I found out that there was a deer hit on the parkway and it was closed. And so if I hadn't listened to that voice of spirit, I would have been late for my appointment. So in the journal that night, I would write, got a prompting to take I-95 versus the Merritt Parkway. What did I do? I listened to that prompting and I took I-95. And then the result was I got to where I was going on time. And I found out later that the other road was closed. Okay. Another example might be I go to fill up my car and gas and there's a mini mart and I get a prompting that says, go inside the mini mart. Well, I don't really need anything. I'm kind of in a hurry, and I don't. And then I find out a week later, my friend from high school just happened to be in town and she was in that mini mart. And if I had gone in there, I would have had this great reconnection with her. Right. So I'm like, okay. So essentially what you're going to see, and sometimes you might not know, like I may not have ever found out that my friend was in that mini mart. You know, so sometimes you won't. But if you start paying attention to it and you're writing these things down, after about a month, you go back and you reread it, you will start to see a pattern emerge that when you listen to that voice of intuition, that voice of spirit, you are prompted to things that either help you or help you avoid something negative. It either brings you to something good or helps you avoid something bad. And when you didn't listen, either something bad happened or you missed out on something good. Right. And it's kind of like the little kid in a way, you know, they talk a lot of times about how our inner child is sort of that voice of the intuition sometimes. And so you can almost think like if a child is trying to tell you a story and your mom on the phone and you're like, yeah, I'll listen to it in a minute. I'm not really paying attention. The child kind of loses interest in trying to share the message with you. But if you put everything down and you're like, okay, honey, what did you want to tell me? And they're going to be like, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. And their enthusiasm, they tell you more and more and more and more. Well, your intuition and the spirits that work with us are in a way like that, where when you pay attention to them, they're like, oh, wait, you're listening? Okay, I can give you more information. And I can even give you more about what's important. And it just starts to build. And we're now, for most people, I will say our Western culture is very intellectual. Right. And so we lean so heavily on our mind and our education and our training and our experience that for us culturally, we're not conditioned like some other cultures are to honor that intuition and listen to that and follow that almost religiously. Right. That to us is sort of like, intuition. What's that? Right. Well, ask most good businessmen who do a major deal because their gut hunch, right? Their gut feeling, that's intuition, right? We just have different names and words for it. But the more that we listen to it, the more refined it gets, the more we're able to have our intellect become the advocate for the intuition versus the adversary. Because right now, for most people, if your intuition said, turn left, the intellect goes, turn left. Well, let's go right just to make sure we were not supposed to go right. And you're like, but the intuition says, yeah, let's just go here, right? But at the end of the exercise, at the end of the month, if you literally do it, and this is not an intellectual exercise, you actually have to write it down because you can imagine, oh yeah, I can imagine what it would be. No, actually do it. Because when you go back and you reread it and you actually see it and feel it and incorporate that of like, oh yeah, look at all that pattern there. That's what changes your intuition and your intellect's relationship from adversarial to now being complementary and being an advocate. So now your intellect goes, hey, did you say something? What do you think about this intuition? Hey, what do you think about this spirit? And so you're paying attention in a much more sophisticated way. So for someone who's starting out, I'm like, okay, figure out how you listen. What's your voice versus the other, so you can start to trust it, and write down at least for a month, and see, what did you get? What's the prompting? What did you do about it, if anything? And what was the outcome, if you happen to know? What was the result? And you'll start to see that pattern build over time. And because you're paying attention, it's kind of like dream journaling. People are like, oh, I never remember my dreams. And if they start to journal, well, strangely, as they do that, more and more, they remember more of their dreams, and they remember more of their dreams. And it's like, what is that? Well, whatever we pay attention to grows. That's a metaphysical truth, right? Where your thoughts go, energy flows, right? So if you're paying attention to something, you're going to attract even more of that thing to you, especially if you're doing it in a positive way, filled with gratitude. And gratitude, my God, gratitude is the grease that makes the world go round, right? Of energy, for sure, right? And you can even put it ahead of time, like, okay, I know I'm just learning this right now, but I'm so grateful. I'm so curious. And I can't wait to see how you're going to lead and inspire and prompt me for my greatest good, so I can be in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, for them to help me, or for them, me to help them, or for us to help each other, right? It's like it becomes this wonderful, magical dance that happens if we open to it and have that sense of joyfulness and gratitude and curiosity as we take that forward.
I love your enthusiasm when you share. And I can tell that you're someone who is like other people's biggest cheerleader, especially when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
stepping into this. That's just so beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you
yeah.
for all of the information. We need to take a break for the top of the hour. Second hour is commercial free. We'll be right back. Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back. I am AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we are your hosts of Soul Wanderings, heard live here on Wednesday nights on kgradb.com. Thank you for being here with us tonight. We are wandering with Alethea Jacob, who is an intuitive spiritual life coach, teacher, speaker, and podcast host. And you're an author too. Is that right?
I am. Yes. I am working on several books at the moment, but I wrote one called The Creative Not Now. You got it. Life Coaching Secrets of How to Restore Power and Balance to Your Life Today. And that picture is of my farm here in Wisconsin. That's one of the sunrises over the
so pretty
side there. But
So
yeah,
what's
so
that
that
title, The Not Now? What does that mean?
so one of the things that one of the trends I noticed a lot with over the years of life coaching, there seemed to be certain patterns that came out. And so the Creative Not Now was basically, what do you do when you're in one of those darned if you do and darned if you don't situations? For example, you had planned on this coming weekend to just finally relax. You were going to take a bubble bath and catch up on that book and just have a me day. And then your sister calls and says, oh, on Friday, she calls and says, oh, I'm having a painting party and I really need your help. And can you come on over from about, 1 PM or even earlier and just help me, paint, because you're so good at it and I really need your help. And you're like, okay, if I say yes to going to help, I'm going to feel resentful because this was the first time I was going to have a day for myself in so long and I had carved it out. And she always waits till the last minute to ask me. And, why doesn't she respect me enough to let me know ahead of time? And I'm like, oh, and if I say no, I'm going to be sitting there in the bubble bath going, dang it, dang it, dang it. How can I relax? Because I know I'm not helping out my sister and I know she needs my help. And if anybody knows me, it's like, if you ask for my help, you're going to get my help. I'm one of those dependable, loyal friends and people that, okay, if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. So the Creative Not Now is asking people, what can you come up with, the creative part, that basically says not now to a request that in a lot of ways was kind of unrighteous and put you in that double bind. So the Creative Not Now answer for that particular one might be, you know what, sis, I would love to help you. I have other plans for that day already. I wish you had told me sooner, right? So now we need to train them to give us a little bit more lead time. I wish you had told me sooner. that you needed that because I already have plans. But here's what I can do. I have time on Monday morning. I'll pick up some donuts and I'll come on over, and anything that you still need done, I will help you finish up. So if you wound up, you could save me the bathroom, you can save me a ceiling, whatever, if you still need the help, I will gladly come to help you. Right. So now I can still enjoy my bubble bath, and my day that I had planned for myself, knowing, yep, I'm going to help her, but it's kind of on my terms versus feeling stuck and resentful. So it's kind of looking at those situations, or the person, because I was self-employed for so many years after I left my corporate job, I was the one that people would call, hey, would you mind taking me to the airport tomorrow? Well, where I lived is about 2 hours away from the airport, right? And it's like, okay, so now this is a half a day project, And again, if they had asked ahead of time, no problem, I would have planned it. But on that last minute, it's like, oh man, if I say no, I'm going to feel like they're stuck, and what kind of friend am I, and then whatever I was doing on that day, I'm going to be thinking, oh, I should have helped them. I could have probably put this off, right? And so you beat yourself up. You're in that double bind again. So in that case, a creative not now solution might be, well, I'm so sorry. I would love to have taken you, but I already have plans for tomorrow. And don't over explain. You don't need to tell them what the plan was, right? You had your plan, right? So I have plans, but I have a great name of a car service that I use that I can recommend to you. And if you want, let me know when you're coming back, and I can plan on picking you up and bringing you back home, So I'll give something that as a suggestion that'll still help them meet their objective, but it's not going to impose not necessarily a hardship, but just really ruin my planning for my day unnecessarily. Now, sometimes emergencies happen, right? I had a friend who their husband had a stroke, and she called me and she said, I'm on my way over. Can you drop everything and run me to the hospital? Yeah, of course. If it's a real true emergency, that's one thing. But I remember when I was working in my corporate environment, there was a executive secretary that had this sign over her desk. And at the time, it cracked me up. And I realized later how wise it was. A little smart ass, but also wise. Sorry, can I say that on the podcast? It said, bad planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Mm-hmm. And I remembered that, years ago, and I'm like, there's some wisdom there. And we train the people in our lives how to treat us, right? Mm-hmm. And so the book is kind of telling people, step back, make sure that you have balance in your life and you are garnering the power in your own life in the ways that serve you, as well as helping others. Because being of service is huge, right? That's part of our heart. That's part of who we are as human beings, that those deep connections and being there for others really fulfills us and makes us feel good about ourselves. So it's important to have time for that, but also to make sure that there is a respectful appreciation and gratitude that comes back, not just an assumption like, oh, well, you don't have the normal kind of job, so of course you're the one that, has to do all these, random errands and assistances. So that's I was just noticing quite a few, especially women that I was coaching. They seemed like they were always so overwhelmed and didn't have the time for themselves. And I said, in some ways, ladies, it is so important. And gentlemen, there's some men that this apply to as well. It's so important for you to recharge your battery and to do the things that nurture your soul and fill up your cup so that you have it to share with others, right? If your tank is empty, if your gas tank is empty, you're not driving anybody in the carpool, right? It's like, nope, sorry, out of gas, can't help you, right? So it's really incumbent on us to do the things that we know will charge up our energy, so that we can help and be there when the time comes. And we can offer it. We can be, we know our family and friends. We know when things are happening. It might be like, hey, I know you just, you're getting the room ready for the new baby. And are you going to be painting that room anytime soon? Oh, yeah. When are you thinking of doing that so I can put it on my calendar? Right. So it's not the last minute like, oh, we're painting tomorrow. Can we count on you? Right. So training people how to treat us respectful of our time and our gifts is important.
Absolutely.
Even, I'm sorry, go ahead, AJ.
I was just going to say it's healthy boundary setting.
Yes.
I mean, it's so important to our sanity.
Oh yeah. Well, I had a mother. Now, growing up in New York, there's I have a little bit of Jewish blood in me, as well as just growing up in that environment. Guilt was a huge way of motivating people to do things. That was part of the culture. I know that's a generalization, but I saw it a lot there, right? So one of my trainings was as a massage therapist years ago and a healer. And so I would have family members, my mom in particular, she would be sitting there, and God rest her, I love her. And she was my best friend, and I miss her terribly after she passed. And she's around a lot, and she's laughing now because she's like, you gonna tell that story and embarrass me? I'm like, yeah, Mom. So she would sit there at the table and she'd be going, oh, and she's like groaning and like holding on to like her trapezius muscle, like, and I'm like, okay, Mom, do you want me to rub your shoulders and your back here? Oh, that would be great. Well, I finally got to a point. I said, Mom, I'm more than happy to massage and heal and help, and any gifts I have, I will share them with you. I love you. You're my mom. Anything I have is yours, right? But ask me. Give me the acknowledgement of you have a gift, and I would love that. So if she just simply would say, oh, my shoulder's really sore. Would you mind massaging this a little bit? I'd be like, oh, yeah, of course. That's a healthy, balanced exchange versus the guilt me into doing it, where she's making me feel like, oh, Mom, did you want me to massage that? Okay, I guess so. Like, wait, I'm giving you a gift and I have to ask your permission to give you this gift versus you asking me, so it's like, we get wrapped up in this weird dynamic a lot of times with our family members and friends where they don't understand that this is what I do for a living, or this is my gift, or this is something, yeah, I love to do it. But that acknowledgement back and forth of, hey, would you mind? Yes, please. That completes the circuit, right? There's that sense of gratitude for it, and it's like, you don't need to pay me. You're my family. Of course, I'm happy to use any of my gifts to bless your lives. But that simple asking and then receiving and then giving thanks, that connects the circuit. And that makes us feel good about our gifts instead of feeling like, and I have another friend who's a massage therapist, and she said people used to do that to her a lot until she said, hey, when you meet your dentist at the theater, do you not like open your mouth and ask him to take a look? Not really, right? That would be really weird. So why is it not weird, based on whatever the skill set is or the gift set that you have, that some people say, oh, well, would you mind? Or they just kind of want to hint and guilt you into doing it. So it's like, no. Yeah.
So many people don't know how to use their voice, though, not just in that place, but even with the things you were saying earlier, they just they hold back so much. So I think it's like getting brave with yourself, right? Like really learning who you are and what you desire, and then getting clear with that, and gives you a little more courage each time you decide to set those boundaries and to share what.
And I think it's about worthiness too. I think worthiness, so many people on both ends, right? So in that scenario, did my mom not feel worthy of asking for it? And so she was just there like, hint, 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 help me, right? Is it that we don't feel worthy to ask for help in a certain situation? Meanwhile, my father taught me always ask, right? Because the worst that ever can happen is somebody could say no. But you never know. They might surprise you and they might say yes, right? So asking was fine. So I have these two opposites. My mom, who would only hint and like never ask, and realizing later on it was because she didn't feel worthy. She really struggled with that for a very long time. And honestly, so did I. I think a lot of people do, based on how they're raised, you don't feel good enough. And I think also with some of our gifts, our spiritual gifts that we have, we're like, once we have a little bit, is it okay to still ask for more and open up for more? And it's like, yeah, because the more we have, the more tools we have, the better house we can build, right? The more tools we have, the more people we can help in different ways, and the easier life can be. Tools are meant to help make our lives easier, right? There, that's why I'm so glad I live in an age that has a washing machine and a dishwasher. I see these, documentaries and these poor uncivilized cultures where the women are like beating the clothing on the rocks in the stream. And I'm like, oh, good God, never. I could never. That's just not me. I am so thankful I have a washing machine, right? These tools are meant to help our lives be easier. So are the spiritual gifts and tools that we have. It's to help us have more joy, more time, a better experience, so that we can explore more who we are.
How did you learn about your intuition? Like, what were the experiences you were having that you were like, wow, I'm actually really intuitive? And then did you learn that before you realized what your like other gifts are, what your purpose was, or was that something you did along the way? Like, how did that all come to play for you?
So I'm going to talk about more general first, and then I'll answer that specific question. So I look at the psychic spiritual gifts as a human potential, just like music. And there are some people that are born as a child prodigy. They just all of a sudden they have that gift, they can play, and you're like, wow, that's really interesting. How did that happen, right? And then you have people that are come from a musical family. Mom and dad sing and they play instruments, and then all of the kids are like, the what is it, the trap family, right? One trap family. Everybody sings or plays an instrument, right? Because they come from that. It's not only expected, it's just they're so immersed in that culture of it that human potential is very easy to develop. And then there's people that don't come from a musical family that really have a love of music, and they say, hey, you know what? I'm going to study and learn and practice and eventually develop some competency in this area. And once I master one instrument, maybe I'll try a different one and another, right? And then there's some people that, they have an interest and they try and they never get past scales. That's me on the piano, by the way. There's one or two songs I memorized, and other than that, it's like, forget about it. I don't really read music well enough to play. That's not my gift, but it is a human potential. And there's other people that have no interest in making the music themselves, but they really love listening to well-performed music. And then there's a few really odd souls that just don't like music at all, right? So that human potential of music is something we can now equate to the spiritual or the metaphysical gifts. So you might be born into a family like I was. I'm not a prodigy, but I was born into a family that was extremely intuitive. I was the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter. And on both sides, my grandmothers, my mother, witchy women. Like the intuition was off the charts. Like you could never get away with anything. It's like they all had that. And I saw spirits from as early as I can remember. As a young child, 7 years old, looking up at my ceiling and seeing these lights and feeling this telepathic communication with spirits. And I would talk to my mom and my grandmom about it, and they'd be like, oh yeah, makes total sense. That's just, that's the spirit, that's an angel, or that's this. And so it was very normalized for me. And I didn't realize until a little bit later on, it wasn't really normal compared to the rest of society. It was just, that was our family. That was our musical family in this little spiritual realm. And so, my mom bought me a Ouija board. My mom bought me tarot cards. My mom bought me, Bibles and scriptures to also use as the spiritual fortune cookie of crack it open and see where God wants you to be paying attention today. Right. So it was sort of like, once I got to a point, it's like, okay, develop your gifts, get more tools, pay attention, because these are meant to be something that you can then use to help others. Just like music can inspire and uplift and entertain others, these tools can also inspire, uplift, and entertain others. And so then about the time the Exorcist movie came out back then, I was about the same age as Linda Blair. I was raised Catholic, and my mom saw that movie and all the tools went away. Everything was like, oh no. She's like, we're not doing this anymore. And I was like, wait, but I thought we're helping people. And she's like, well, I said, yeah, but Mom, it's not the tool. I mean, somebody could take a hammer and build a house and do something amazing, or a project and build something amazing, or they can bash somebody's head in. It's not the tool that's the problem. It's the user of the tool and what's their intention and what kind of proficiency or competency they have with the tool. And she was like, yeah. So we had those kind of discussions. And then as time went on, I started studying and training, and I would just, any book I can find on it, any workshop I could go to, any teacher I could find that would listen to me. And I grew up in a fairly poor, lower middle class family. So there was not a lot of money. So I had to be really creative. So I bartered my butt off to sit in a lot of classes, to learn from people. I transcribed classes. I did all kinds of stuff in order, and I had really great people that just opened their hearts and said, I can see your spirit. I see your willingness to learn, your curiosity. And obviously you have some potential because you're already opened up at a really young age to some of this stuff. So let's give you the tools so that you know how to discern, because there's negative vibrations and energies out there. There's positive energies and vibrations out there. And we want to make sure we have the discernment to open up to the positive ones that are helpful and that lead us to be better people, and lead us to those opportunities and the tools that help us serve others and help others and uplift everybody. One of the things I remember from the corporate world is a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So we're all in this together. So even as one person grows and opens and glimpses enlightenment, and I'll tell you, sometimes it feels like I'm on a trampoline and I'm peeking over the fence, and that's like, oh, there's a glimpse, there's a glimpse, there's a glimpse, right? And you try pieces of the puzzle together and figure out, well, what the heck did that mean? So circling back to your question to me a little while ago, AJ, about what would I tell somebody new about this? Write everything down, because the little snippet of the dream or the little thought that you pondered and it just popped in your head, they can be these little pieces of the puzzle, the snippets. And as you put them all together over time, it's like, oh, it's a picture of the Grand Canyon. Who knew? There you go. It all comes together now, right? So it's being patient with the little bits. So back to me, I came from a family where it was something that was accepted and not shut down. There was some natural abilities, and then my curiosity and heart were to become the best possible metaphysician I could. And so I studied healing disciplines, physical body disciplines. Like I was a certified massage therapist. I worked in a chiropractor's office and learned different ways of doing applied kinesiology. I studied everything I could get my hands into, and from a scientific as well as a woo-woo, new agey kind of perspective, right? So I would read the books that you're like, yeah, okay, this is really odd. And then I would sit with that and say, okay, so what do I know about science that backs this up? So like crystals, for example. So many people are like, well, what's the straight talk on crystals? And I'm like, well, scientifically, every single mineral has a different vibration and a different frequency that it resonates. So if you were to take a piece of Herkimer diamond, it's in the quartz family. It's a little physical properties is 7.5 on the hardness scale, where regular clear quartz is 7. But if you put this into a device to measure a frequency, crystals are sort of like a lighthouse or a tuning fork that is constantly sending out a vibration. And it's like, okay, so we know different types have different vibrations. And like there's rose quartz and there's amethyst, and different ones have a different vibration. And just like there's certain music that you listen to at different times, because that's what my soul needs right now, right? So there's times I need to go listen to some of the old albums from the 70s when I was a kid, and the 80s, right? And you're like blaring that. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll listen to some of the big band era. Sometimes I'll just listen to something classical, because that vibration is what I need, right? A lot of times it's not intellectual. It's more of I just feel drawn to that, right? So when I tell people about crystals, I'm like, well, what are you drawn to? Oh, I love the pink of those rose quartz. And I'm like, well, what do you feel when you hold it? Oh, it's kind of calming. I really feel my heart opening up. I feel like a sense of love of self, or a higher love, right? Oh, okay. Those are properties of rose quartz. That's part of that energy frequency that they put out there, right? So there's a scientific basis for people that say, oh yeah, well, this stone does this and this stone does that. There is actually science behind it, right? So that was part of what I tried to be, is that bridge. Well, okay, I have education. I have a degree in chemistry. I have a degree in computer science. I worked in a corporate world for a while. I have a lot of understanding of science and business. Well, how does that apply to some of these healing techniques and metaphysical properties, and even like the essential oils, right? And people are like, well, what is it about, lavender versus rosemary? It's like, is it really true that lavender helps you go to sleep and rosemary helps energize you and invigorate you? Or lavender, or mint and rosemary, well, you can actually look at some of the properties of the chemical properties. If you were to create a tea or a tincture out of it, it's like, yeah, there's medicinal purposes and herbs. And you could go way back into ancient societies that they knew all this stuff long ago, before the science actually bore it out, right? So I like to take a lot of the educational things that I've learned and have the experiences. Part of traveling, I was very blessed to be able to travel in part of my job. And then whenever I had 2 pennies to put together, I'm like, I'm going someplace. I love to travel. I love to meet people. I love new cultures. I love to, as you can tell, I'm a bit extroverted. So it's pretty easy for me to make friends and go have adventures. So I loved going to sacred places and feeling the energy and tuning in, and they're like, okay, so this place is known, like, for example, pyramid power. Way back in the 80s, it was really big, pyramid power. People were building pyramids in their houses, ladies. They were taking, and they would sit there to meditate and all. And it was like, pyramid power is great for manifesting, right? And I was like, all right, well, I went to Egypt and I went to the Great Pyramid, and I'm like, let me feel what it's like to be inside the Great Pyramid and see, what does that energy feel like? And I actually had a cool experience of instant manifestation when I was in there. And the short version of the story is, I was on a Thomas Cook tour. It was just a traditional tour, not a metaphysical tour. And it was back in 1994, and there was a lot of terrorism. So there was very few tourists. So my bus of 22 people, only 11 got off the bus because it was too hot. And so 11 of us go, and we're climbing around it. And you could go up the Robbers Tunnel and climb inside and go into the King's Chamber, where there is a ancient sarcophagus. That's a stone sarcophagus. Part of it, the corner, got chipped out by somebody years ago. But that particular King's Chamber was used for initiations. It wasn't a burial chamber. It was where the high priests would call the energy to basically have their initiate pass the test to become the next high priest. And I thought, oh, I'm in there. I'm the first one in. You have to crawl down on your hands and knees, because the chamber, the way the Robbers Tunnel went, they pulled a 4 foot by 4 foot block out. And so you have to crawl in through that 4 foot by 4 foot opening. And then it opens up into this big chamber inside the pyramid. As soon as I went in there, I had the thought, and it was this deep thought from my heart, oh, I wish I could be alone here for just a couple of minutes so I could really tune into the energy. Because this was a traditional, like, Thomas Cook tour. It wasn't a metaphysical tour. I didn't want people thinking I was too weird, right? So it was the beginning of the tour. So as soon as I had that wish, the lights went out in the chamber and the top part of the tunnel. And so everybody else starts scurrying back down. And I'm like, oh my God, I got my wish, right? I'm sitting there. Couldn't even see my hand in front of my face, right? And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm tuning into the energy. And it was awesome. It was kind of the feeling of the limitlessness of outer space, power, a little bit of just wonder and awe. It was just this really cool mix of energy. Even though it was so dark, it was like, wow, this is crazy. So the lights come back on, and then I'm like, okay, now's my chance. I have at least 2 or 3 minutes before anybody gets up. So I hop inside the sarcophagus because I want to tune into the energy. So I'm laying in there and I'm like, oh God, this is so cool. I'm tuning in. And then I hear Martha, who's one of the British women that were on the tour. And she's like, oh dear, what happened to the American girl? And I'm like, oh God, my cover's going to be so blown. I'm like, how am I going to explain what the heck I'm doing in this box? Right. So I put out, oh, what can I say? Help me know what to say. And all of a sudden, like the stream of consciousness, this came to me. I'm like, hey, Martha, I'm in the box. I didn't call it a sarcophagus, right? I downplayed what it was. And I'm laying there. I was like, hey, remember, we saying the tour guide was saying there's like the sarcophagus, and then there's the mummy case, and then there's the mummy. I said, look, my head and feet almost touch the ends. Can you imagine how short the ancient Egyptians must have been? Because I'm only 5'5", And she's like, oh, my dear girl, you're so brave. But I'm like, let's just keep this between you and me. I hop out of the box and off we run. Right? I had the realization, though, the 2 prayers of my heart were instantly answered. They were manifested instantly. And I thought afterwards, damn, why didn't I think of ask for the lotto numbers or something, right? But that's not a desire of the heart. That's not a pure type of call for help, if you will, right? Yeah. So for me, that practical real life experience I had, I don't know if it's practical or not, but that actual real life experience I had inside the pyramid gave me some room to consider the reality of the mythology of pyramids and pyramid power are helpful in manifesting things because I experienced it firsthand. So when you go to these sacred places and you have an experience of an energy there or a transcendent feeling there or a sense of presence there, it makes you have to look at things a little differently when you read about ancient cultures that attribute certain properties or characteristics to a sacred site or to a certain ritual or to an object like a crystal, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where experimenting and curiosity can really be amazing when you're just starting out with this, because you can know, like, oh, it has the reputation for this or that, or somebody says it can be used for this or that. Well, what's your personal experience of it? What happens to you when you're in that sacred place? And I don't care if your sacred place is a grove of trees that an angel or appeared in once upon a time, or it's a cathedral that was built, centuries ago, that when you walk in, you can feel the prayers of the tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people that have come and prayed there over the years. Or whether you're going to an open field in Lourdes where the Virgin Mary appeared to kids years ago, and people still make pilgrimages there, and miracles happen to this day, as far as prayers that are answered. So I try to keep a healthy skepticism and say, well, if an ancient culture said these things happened without the technology, and now we have technology to kind of sort of do those things, what did we lose in our knowledge base or in our willingness to experiment and try without the technology? And what would happen if we just started trying to re-access some of those ancient wisdoms and said, I remember reading in that scroll once, it said, try this for that. Okay, why not? Let's just see what happens. And so, if you take the precautions, right, you open, and I tell people, look, don't be reckless with anything. It's not like jumping in a car and saying, I'm going to go as fast as I can go and just see what happens, right? Energy is real, right? You feel it. Everybody feels energy, right? Mm-hmm. There's times you're like, oh, I feel tired today. Your energy's low. Or, wow, I'm like really jazzed up today. My energy's high. Or you go into an elevator, it opens up and it's like, you sense the energy there and you're like, next car, right? Or you're like, oh, this is inviting, party. Let me come on in there. And how are you? And who are you? And where are you going, right? And you feel energy all the time. So it's important that we also protect our energy when we're opening up to an unknown, right? So just like you wouldn't be walking around with your purse open, walking through a known part of town where there's pickpockets in a tourist city, right? You take precautions, right? You make sure things are safe and where they should be. Well, before you experiment with any kind of spiritual stuff, you want to make sure you feel protected as well. And for some people, that's through prayer. Sometimes it's calling out just more generically to those who guide and love us from above for guidance, protection, connection, asking for the energies around us to be of the highest vibration and light, asking for that guardian or guidance, just like, hey, look, guys, you know what? I feel prompted to play and experiment and be curious. Would you just mind, keep the space safe for us, please? Just like the teachers will make sure that the children in the class feel safe to play, in the kindergarten class, right? The kids don't have to think about, well, is a bad man going to come in here? Well, they didn't have to until, years ago. And now they have little drills and all, but they still have this sense of protection, right? They know that there's somebody there looking out, so we should do that as well, right? And that's where guidance and working with other masters or teachers or people who have been in the field for a while, when you open up to experiment, it's good to have a buddy. It's good to, take classes from somebody who is reliable and knows what they're doing so that you can feel safe and protected to experiment. One of my biggest responsibilities as a workshop leader and a retreat leader is making sure the energy is set. It's safe. There's protection there, so that no matter what they want to play with or experiment with, they don't have to worry about, what's that creepy guy over in the corner? There's no creepy guy in the corner. I've taken care of it.
Yeah. You have so much to share. I'm just like a kid having story time. I'm sitting on the floor looking up at you like, this is so good.
Just
I'll
keep
come back. Have me on again.
No, it's
love
really good. I'm glad that you're starting a podcast because obviously you have so much to share. And everyone needs that right now. Everyone's seeking, everyone's searching, and the more people who have had the experiences and can offer those lessons and those stories are definitely needed right now. I love the movement that's taking place. It's really exciting.
There is definitely a new awakening. And I think it's very normal when you have such chaos and contention in the world on one level, that there's a resurgence of love and energy and healing and helpers on the other. There's always a balance, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very important for people to understand, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your upbringing was, that there's always going to be tremendous blessings available in every situation. And there's also lots of obstacles and tragedies and challenges that we have to overcome. And that's part of what we signed up for as souls coming into this physical experience. It was meant to be a bit of a training ground. It was meant to be a testing. It was meant to be like, okay, how can I get stronger? Well, you don't get stronger by sitting there and just relaxing on, being on vacation, 24/7. That's not how we grow, right? We have to push. How do muscles grow? You have to actually strain them and almost tear some of the fibers, right? For them to actually literally start to heal and grow. And so I look back at my life, and I would encourage people to almost do this little time travel technique with your mind. And if you're going through something that's really challenging and hard right now, and you're like, oh, there's no way my soul would have agreed to this. There's just no way. This is like horrible. And I would never agree to this, right? Imagine what your life will be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you look back at how much you grew and the resiliency you developed and the coping mechanisms you embraced and the help that came to you and how strong you actually were, far stronger than you ever realized you had the potential to be, right? So look at that point and then come back to it and then say, well, because if I look at some of the things that were the most horrible things that happened in my life, and trust me, for every blessing, there was a curse, it seems, it was like, oh my gosh, there were some things that I was like, I almost killed myself when I was 25 years old. I almost took my own life because it was that hard and that terrible. And angels intervened, and that's a story for another day. But what I learned was my soul agreed to go through some of the most horrible experiences that a woman can go through in her life, or person for that matter, can go through, because part of my soul's purpose was to be a guide, a teacher, a helper, a counselor, a coach. And if I hadn't gone through those experiences, I would have no congruency and no right to give any kind of guidance or recommendations to people. So the more hell that I survived and figured out not just how to survive, but how to thrive in spite of it, and to grow and still come with a heart of gratitude and love of the people in my life, regardless of how they may have hurt me, I can now help more people. I can reach people. They're like, oh yeah, I know you've been through that. Yeah, I have. And you know what? You can too, right? So we can be that healer, that cheerleader, that support for people because of what we went through. So when I look back now, when I come from now and I look back then, I'm like, no, you know what? I probably wouldn't have changed any of it, because it really served in the long run. It really served what my soul wanted to do as far as be of service. And it helped me learn, because I had to, for partly survival, as well as then later on thriving, I had to learn to depend on the promptings of spirit. I had to learn to turn to the scriptures to get that upliftment. And you read, like, if you read the Old Testament, it's like, oh my goodness gracious, what these people went through. Or if you read even the New Testament, it's like, yeah, that was no picnic either. And you read maybe the Book of Mormon, or you read the Bhagavad Gita, or you read the Quran, like whatever the holy book is that you want to look at as a book of scripture. It was not, listen to the word of God and your life is wonderful. And if you're a good person, nothing bad ever happens to you. No, no, not at all. Right. And I think it helps people to know you're not doing it wrong. This is not meant to be a curse or a punishment. If life is challenging and life is hard, and maybe you're not living your best life yet, it's because there's something to learn. There's some skills to develop. Maybe there's a new approach or an awareness that will come to you because of the adversity that you're going through. It might be that you need to slow down and learn how to ask for help, or to have better boundaries, or to just understand what self-love is before you're so inclined to be able to give it to others, right? So, looking at things in different ways only comes when you've had this whole merry-go-round of experiences. And you're like, yeah, some of the rides at the amusement park are amazing, and others make me get sick. Right? You're like, oh, all right. But the whole of it, it's an adventure, right? And it's one that we signed up for. We're like, I'm coming to this amusement park. Let's see what rides are in store here, right? And some of the biggest surprises are the biggest opportunities. I mentioned my husband before. I've been with my man for 16 years. And he very suddenly last year said, I'm not happy. I want a divorce. And I was like, what? And I'm like, okay, guys, you talk to me about every random thing under the planet. You're not going to give me a heads up on this one? Hello? What was that about, right? But I understood, little by little, I started opening up to spirit, understanding what was happening, why it might have happened, where the blessing could come in it. And one of the blessings is now I have, instead of spending most of my time devoted to being the good wife and the good house partner and the business partner and all the things I was with our life together, it freed me up to get back to my calling as the life coach and the teacher and this whole metaphysical side that I still always did. But for most of the time that I was with him, I had a different priority. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, And I had to learn again about forgiveness and love. And okay, if I truly love him, I want him to be happy. And if he's not happy with me and he's going to be happy with somebody else, of course I want to support that. And we're still tremendous friends. And his new wife and I are really great friends. And it's like, okay, that was a challenge. That was a test, but it's a choice. Are we going to choose faith over fear, love over hate, right? We have the opportunities, and anything that happens, no matter how much it derailed, like I thought I had my future planned. I'm a planner, right? If I'm like, I can organize stuff, I can plan stuff. Mm-hmm. And then something happens and you're like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not in control at all of this, am I? Okay.
We never are
right.
in control of
Right?
anything.
Right?
Yeah.
We like to have that illusion that we have some control in our own lives, but not really. It doesn't happen.
I've
we do
noticed
have
through
choice.
all, yeah, we do have choice. I've noticed through all the people we've interviewed or even just come in contact with, because we have a spiritual healing center that we operate during the day and seek, like Natalie specializes in grief, I specialize in trauma. And it is because of the experiences that we went through. Like we had to go through these really challenging experiences, even on repeat in some cases, so that we could be able to show up the way that we show up now. I feel like it always leads you to where you're meant to be. And some people have a challenging time wrapping their heads around that, right? Like, why would I sign up for this? Or why would I put myself through this? And then even just the concept of having gratitude for the experience, and even loving the person that hurt you. It is a journey, and it is definitely a process, and not everyone gets there. But I've noticed the ones that do almost always are the ones that are helping other people get through their experiences. And so there's always a reason, not just because of that, so we can show up for others, but also so we can be better versions of ourselves, right?
Oh, yeah. And the compassion that we have, since we've been
Right.
through that, we know their pain. We can cry right with them. And it's real tears, because we know how their heart was broken in that moment, and how their life, it got turned upside down in that moment, or how the pain of, or the feelings of betrayal or confusion or just unworthiness, or why wasn't I good enough? Why, I gave you my all and that wasn't good enough. Why? Well, maybe it was for a while, but one of the things that has happened, people are probably noticing, everything is accelerating. So in our grandparents' day, there was never divorce, hardly ever. In my parents' day, it was probably 1 out of every 4 or 5 couples might, after about 20 years, right? In my generation, it's much more prevalent. And in what would be my kids' or grandkids' generation, they don't even want to get married half the time, right? Let alone, they're like, oh no, we just come together, we do our projects, we come together for a season, whatever that season is, whether it's, a year, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But it's there's not an expectation, because things have accelerated. The learnings, the projects, things that used to take forever are happening so much faster. So maybe I had that project with my husband, and I used the term husband instead of ex because it just sounds nicer. He was my husband, so he's my husband. Made that word up. Maybe we came together for those 16 years to accomplish certain things that I know he's a better man for having been with me, and I'm a better woman for having been with him for that time. But now that project maybe came to a completion point, and the better partners for us for the next projects, the next phase of our life, it wasn't him. We could still be loving and supportive of each other and wanting the best for each other, but time has, it's like, okay, yeah, if he did that, maybe we wouldn't have come back around to this other project or this other purpose that's kind of important to your soul. So I think a big part of the challenge today for a lot of people is, okay, if you're not comfortable with what's happening in your life right now, you don't have control maybe over what's happening, but you have control over how you react to it, how you can look at it, how you can look for the blessings in it, or have gratitude for the little bits. There might, maybe most of it is a total mess, but there's this one little piece that still is, oh, this nugget is so beautiful, and I'm just going to focus on this. Because we know what we focus on grows.
Yes.
We do speak our truth into reality, right?
Yes.
It says it in every sacred book that you want to pick up, almost every text, right? As you speak, so you are, right? So it's so important that the words that we express empower us, empower others, express love, express gratitude, look to the possibilities. Don't get stuck on reading the litany of everybody's faults and how everything sucks and how horrible things are, right? Because if that's what you're focusing on, guess what? You're going to get more of that. You don't want more of that, right? You want more of the other stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. Bring it on. Let's manifest that goodness. Absolutely. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot going on. We just have a few short minutes left. I want to make sure that we don't run out of time. Um, you have a new podcast coming up. I've shared those links on Facebook and Rumble in the chat rooms for those of you
Oh,
who are
thank you.
interested in
Awesome.
going over to her page, subscribe so you can get the latest updates on when she releases that information. And then your website is your name,
Yep.
AletheaJacob.com.
Or spiritually speaking with Alethea.com. They'll be able to go, both of them will be linked. So,
Sweet.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the name of the podcast, you all, Spiritually Speaking
Mm-hmm.
with Althea. What
Yeah.
else do you have going on and where can we purchase your book?
The book is actually free on Kindle if you have the Kindle Prime or whatever that part is, or you can just order it on Amazon. It's there. It's just, I call it my little bathroom primer. It's like you can read a chapter in a setting. It's just little thoughts, on each of the aspects of balance in your life. The book I'm working on a couple different books right now. They'll be coming out later this year. So part of the reason for the podcast is also just to give enough out to start with that people will understand who I am. And I love to teach. I love to do retreats. I love to be guest speakers. I love to put together customized workshops. I have so many different tools that I can put together. It's like, okay, you have 8 women in Virginia that are getting together for a weekend and you want a special retreat. Okay, let's talk and let's customize and I'll be there, right? And I'll come in and do something. Or they'll go to my website. There's whole descriptions of all the different courses that I've taught over the years. And you're like, oh, I want a little bit of this. One from column A, 2 from column B. We customize for your group. Now with Zoom, it makes it so much easier too. It's like, oh, you want this? Yeah, sure. What do you want? Well, okay, sure. How long do you want it? What do you want to cover? Yeah, I can do that. So I like to customize because I think people have unique needs and groups of people have unique needs. And so I just want to get as much out there. And I actually want to give away a lot too. I really want it to go out. I don't charge a lot for my books. I don't charge a lot for my classes. My private sessions, yeah, of course, because you have to just limit you only have so many slots in a day for that. But I'm really open to barter. Like I said, I came from no money. I've had people be real creative. They've helped me, work in my orchard and help me, weed my community garden, and I've taught them workshops, and given them sessions. I'm like, yeah, sure. I think it's important for us to be yes people to spirit. And if somebody truly finds me, I believe it's because I have something that'll help them. That's my belief, right? So if you've come across me, there's something I have that I can share with you. And so it's our joint job to figure out what that is and how we can make that happen.
Yeah. So good. One more question before we end.
Okay.
What's one of your most favorite things about yourself?
I think my enthusiasm, which means filled with spirit. I love this fact that I've been doing this for so many years and it still brings me so much joy and excitement. When I'm in this space, I get so energized. It doesn't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm playing. I feel like I'm sharing these joyful nuggets with my best friends. And I think that, yeah, I guess that's kind of like a childlike quality that I still have that I never lost. And I'm kind of proud. I'm 61 and I still have that like, yay, kind of energy and that joyful gratitude. And especially because I'm kind of stepping back into this world a little more fully and from a different place in my life. And I just have this sense of gratitude. And I think I know who I am. I know what my purpose is. And that helps me resonate the right kind of energy to help other people find theirs. At least
Yeah.
that's my belief anyway.
Oh, I can tell. I can tell. You have a very contagious energy about you. And
Thank you.
no doubt the people around you would feel inspired and motivated to be better versions of themselves because of you showing up as
So
you.
much. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
definitely.
Thanks
It's
for
been
having me
so
on your
much.
show.
Yeah, it's been so much fun listening to you and learning from you. I have to say, I have a notebook I carry around with me for my I started doing that at the beginning of the year, and it has been so good for
Oh,
me.
cool.
So, great advice. I really
Wonderful.
appreciate it.
Well, thanks,
Uh,
ladies.
yeah, thank you so
It's
much.
been a
This time
joy,
flew by. My God, this was like an hour and a half. I can't believe it. It feels like it was like 10 minutes.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
thank
you're
you so
such a
much, ladies.
genuine soul. Thank you so much. And to you,
Oh, thank
Wanderers,
you.
we appreciate your time. We know that it is very valuable and that you spent your time with us means a whole lot. So, thank you very much. Until
Okay.
next week, be good to yourself and be good to each other, and we'll see you then. Good
Ha-
night.
Have a good one.
Good night.